the image of love. Lauren had always admired Davidson from afar. It started in high school, a time when she didn't truly understand what love meant. She had watched him from across the classroom, captivated by his quiet confidence, his strong presence, and the way everyone seemed to gravitate toward him. To Lauren, he was perfect, an image of everything she had ever dreamed of. She spent years constructing a version of him in her mind, someone who could fit her idea of love, someone who could fill the void she felt inside. But Davidson, he had never even noticed her. To him, Lauren was just another girl, the one who sat in the back of the classroom, always eager to please, but never quite fitting in. He couldn't stand the way she tried so hard, the way she went out of her way to be around him, to impress him, to make him notice her. In his eyes, Lauren was someone who didn't even know herself, someone who was obsessed with the idea of love, not the reality. For years, Lauren chased him, whether it was through trying to be the best in class, offering him help with his projects, or making herself available whenever he needed someone. But Davidson's indifference only pushed her harder. Every snub, every ignored glance just made her more determined. She was in love with the idea of him, the image she had created in her mind, and she wasn't ready to let go. Lauren believed that if she could just break through the walls Davidson had built around his heart, he would see her the way she saw him, perfect, worthy of his love. She didn't realize that she had never truly seen him, just the image of who she wanted him to be. But as the years passed, something began to change. Davidson, who had always kept his distance, began to notice her. At first it was just an occasional glance. He observed how Lauren had grown, how she had started to shine in her own way, despite the facade of perfection she wore. Her laughter, her kindness to others, the way she worked so hard to build a life for herself, all of it began to draw him in. He started to question why he had once found her so irritating. Maybe it was because he had never seen her for who she truly was. It was then that Davidson realized he had made a mistake. He had seen Lauren through a filter of judgment, based on who he thought she was, based on his own biases. As he observed her more closely, he realized how wrong he had been. He didn't just like the image he had once scorned. He liked her, but it was too late. Lauren, for the first time in her life, began to understand the truth about herself. She had spent years in love with an illusion, chasing after someone she didn't truly know, obsessed with an idea of perfection that didn't exist. When she took a step back and saw Davidson for who he truly was, a flawed, complex human being, she realized that the love she had been holding onto wasn't love at all. It was the image of love. She had built a dream around someone who hadn't even been a part of it. And in that moment of clarity, something shifted within her. She could no longer pretend to love an idea. She could no longer hold onto a vision of Davidson that wasn't real. She had loved the thought of him for so long, but now she saw that her heart had been misplaced. The love she thought she had for him was just a reflection of the person she wanted him to be, not the man he actually was. Davidson, now aware of his feelings, approached her one evening. There was a vulnerability in his eyes that Lauren had never seen before. "Lauren," he said quietly, "I've been thinking a lot about us, about how I've seen you, and how I've treated you. I know I wasn't fair to you." Lauren smiled softly, a weight lifting from her shoulders. She looked at him, no longer seeing the image she had constructed, but the real Davidson, the one who had flaws, uncertainties, and his own fears. "I think we both were in love with the wrong things," she said, her voice steady. "I was in love with an idea, and you didn't see me at all, but that's okay. We don't need to be in love with something we don't understand. I think we both need to understand who we really are first." Davidson nodded, his heart heavy with the weight of his realization. "So what now?" Lauren looked at him, a calm sense of peace washing over her. "Now we let go of the image. We let go of the dream, and we see what happens when we stop pretending." And just like that, Lauren's love for Davidson shifted. No longer a chase, no longer an obsession, it was the start of a new beginning. For the first time, she was ready to love someone for who they truly were, without the weight of expectations or illusions. And as for Davidson, he had learned the true meaning of love not as a fantasy, but as something real, something that could only exist when you saw the person in front of you, exactly as they were. It wasn't the love they had imagined, but it was the love they needed.